Hello again. This is Andy, your Southern Idaho financial fitness coach. If you're tired of living in the infinite loop of almost, where you almost stick to your budget until life gets in the way, this video is for you. Today, we're introducing CK Financial Coaching and the 5-Rep Root Cause Framework. We're going to explore how to build lasting financial fitness by treating the bedrock root cause of your money habits, rather than just treating the surface symptoms. You'll learn while relying on willpower fails and how building better systems is the real key to success. Check this out.
Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right in today because we're setting the stage for a real masterclass on completely transforming how we handle our money. And right up front, I want to mention that today's entire framework comes straight from the incredibly smart folks over at CK Financial Coaching. We are going to totally shift our perspective on financial stress. We're going to move away from that exhausting cycle of guilt and temporary quick fixes, and instead we're looking at our finances through a structural, highly effective behavioral lens. So, have you ever felt stuck in what we call the infinite loop of almost? You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You almost stayed on budget this month. You almost saved enough for that starter emergency fund. But then, as it literally always does, life happens, right? It's like the check engine light on your car magically knows the exact day you finally build up a little savings and boom, it lights up. Or the water heater suddenly breaks. Or honestly, you just get completely burned out from restricting yourself and you're right back where you started. It is incredibly frustrating and defeating, but as we're going to see, it's a completely solvable problem once we change our approach. All right, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Section 1, the infinite loop of almost. Section 2, the no blame pledge. Section 3, the 5-rep root cause. Section 4, building better financial guardrails. And finally, Section 5, achieving true financial fitness. Okay, starting with Section 1, the infinite loop of almost. Symptoms versus source. This brings us to that fantastic methodology from CK Financial Coaching. It's rooted in one core philosophy. You have to treat the source, not just a symptom. The founder of CK Financial Coaching actually lived this infinite loop firsthand behind the wheel of a Jeep he couldn't actually afford. You see, he wasn't just buying a vehicle, he was trying to fill an emotional void. He genuinely thought having the right car would signal to the world and to himself that he had the right life. But instead, that single purchase became this massive financial anchor dragging him down for 2 solid years. He was treating his money like a series of isolated accidents, basically blaming the massive car payment instead of looking under the hood at the real engine driving the problem. Moving on to Section 2, the no blame pledge. Curiosity over criticism. To actually get to the engine of our own problems, we have to borrow a rule from high-efficiency manufacturing, which is fix the system, not the person. Just think about it for a second. If a part comes off an assembly line broken, the engineers don't stand around and yell at the machine, right? They don't shame the conveyor belt. They look for the flaw in the assembly process. Shame is just a terrible financial strategy. Financial struggles are rarely a willpower issue. They are almost always a systems issue. We absolutely must drop the guilt entirely and start looking at our financial mistakes with genuine curiosity rather than harsh criticism. Section 3, the 5-rep root cause, drilling down to the truth.
You know, just like in a gym, doing one single rep isn't going to build much muscle. In finance, asking, why did I buy this? Just one time isn't enough to find the truth. It usually just hands you a really convenient, logical excuse. So here is the mental workout we actually need to do. We have to drill down through 5 specific layers of inquiry. And by drilling down, I mean refusing to accept the first, most comfortable answer. We start at the surface symptom and we peel back the layers until we reach the fundamental truth driving our behavior. So let's break these down.
Rep 1 is the surface symptom. Now this requires radical honesty to separate fact from feeling. When we look at a terrible bank statement or a sky-high credit card balance, we almost always pivot straight to shame. We tell ourselves, man, I'm a failure. But we actually need to look at debt exactly like a clinical blood pressure reading at the doctor's office. A high reading is just a measurement of your current health. It is absolutely not a definition of your personal worth. It's literally just data. And viewing it purely as data, that is incredibly free. Once we have that objective data, we move to Rep 2, the tactical trigger. If Rep 1 is the blazing fire, Rep 2 is the exact match that started it. Overspending is almost never some massive premeditated event. It is usually a tiny micro-decision triggered by your environment, like idly scrolling through car listings on your phone late at night, Or your emotions, maybe seeking a quick reward after a really brutal day at the office? Or honestly, simply a lack of friction, like mindlessly clicking a buy now button because your credit card info is already perfectly saved. To beat that trigger, we use the 1-second rule. If you can create a simple 1-second gap between an emotional trigger and the physical swipe of your card, you've already won 50% of the battle. It gives your logical brain just enough time to catch up with your panicked or exhausted emotions. A highly practical example of this, going into your web browser right now and deleting all your saved credit card information. Forcing yourself to actually get up, walk across the room, and manually type in 16 digits introduces exactly the friction you need. As we work our way down through the process and cultural gaps in reps 3 and 4, we finally hit bedrock at rep 5, the fundamental truth. The shift in mindset here is just extraordinary. The old identity is driven by what we call the keeping up tax. Spending money you don't actually have to signal a status you don't actually feel. But the new identity shifts completely away from that. You don't just do a budget. You become a person who values their future over their current impulses. You prioritize lasting financial peace over fleeting external validation. When you finally make this identity shift, you stop fighting yourself. All right, Section 4, Building Better Financial Guardrails, from Willpower to Systems. Look, most financial advice out there fails because it ultimately just tells you to try harder. But we don't want to try harder, we want to build better. The difference comes down to autopsy versus architecture. Most people out there do an autopsy. They track their spending after the fact, looking backward at the end of the month in deep regret. We want to build architecture. We want to plan our spending before it ever happens. This is zero-based budgeting, where every single dollar gets an assigned job, an assigned purpose, before the month even begins. To build that robust architecture, we need the 3 pillars of a solid financial process: the budget, sinking funds, and automation. The budget is your map. It directs the traffic. Sinking funds are your shield. This simply means saving a little bit each month for non-monthly, totally predictable expenses, like holiday gifts or annual car registrations, so that life doesn't suddenly blow up your budget. And automation is your engine. It moves money securely into savings before your brain even registers that it hit your checking account. Together, these pillars step in and literally say no for you when your willpower is compromised. And that brings us to one of my absolute favorite, kind of humorous diagnostic tools, the robot test. Ask yourself this honestly. If a robot followed my exact current financial instructions, would it be broke? If the answer is yes, like if you are entirely relying on remembering to transfer money on a random Tuesday or just crossing your fingers and hoping you don't spend too much at the grocery store, then your process is the actual problem. Relying on human memory and sheer willpower is a notoriously terrible system. Section 5. Achieving True Financial Fitness. Wealth as Health. I want you to think of the wealth as health metaphor. Just like a doctor checks your vitals during a physical, we need to regularly check your financial vitals. Your cardio is your cash flow. Can you run the entire length of the month without gasping for air and overdrafting? Your strength is your net worth. That's your foundational financial muscle mass, and your BMI is your debt-to-income ratio. Think of debt like a really heavy backpack you're forced to wear while running a marathon. It is a massive drag that drastically slows down your progress. To start building that strength, you need exactly this number, $1,000. This is your starter emergency fund. Building this specific amount of cash and building it fast is the absolutely critical first step because it acts as a literal shock absorber for your life. It's the exact thing that breaks that vicious cycle of having to reach for a high-interest credit card every single time there's a minor inconvenience or emergency. Once you've got that $1,000 shield firmly in place, you can actively start lowering your financial BMI by attacking your debt. Now, there are 2 main strategies here. The avalanche method tackles the highest interest rate first, which is for sure the most mathematically efficient route, but the snowball method, where you list your debts from smallest to largest and attack the smallest one first, completely ignoring the interest rate, is incredibly powerful. Paying off that small debt creates a massive, immediate dopamine hit. It provides the behavioral momentum most of us actually need to stay in the game, keep fighting, and ultimately eliminate the debt entirely. Which brings us right back to CK Financial Coaching and the core lesson of this entire explainer. Working the financial muscle is a lifetime practice. Building better financial systems and uncovering your deep root causes isn't just some one-time overnight fix. I mean, you don't just go to the gym once and stay fit forever, right? Every financial fire, every single mistake is simply another opportunity to take a breath, start at rep 1, and work your way down to the fundamental truth. So, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought. What does your ideal financial fitness actually look like? Budgeting is notoriously boring and restrictive if you don't know why you're doing it. When you clearly define your vision, whether that's retiring a decade early, buying a quiet cabin in the woods, or simply sleeping soundly at night without a huge knot in your stomach, you reframe everything. You realize you aren't just depriving yourself of a latte, you are actively funding your ultimate vision of financial fitness. Work the reps, build the systems, and I will see you on the next explainer.